Hi guys, so this is the lesson on radical equations, lesson 4 that is posted on Google Classroom. So question 1, when it comes to solving a radical equation, your first step is always going to be to isolate the radical. So for question 1 here, it says 7 plus radical x equals 13. My first goal is to get this radical x by itself. And in order to do that, I'm going to subtract the 7 over to the other side. So you get radical x equals 6. Once the radical is isolated, you then want to get rid of it. So the opposite of the square root is to square. So your next goal is going to be to square both sides. I'm squaring the left here so that my squared and square root can cancel and the x comes out. But if I'm going to square the left side, I also have to square the right side, and 6 squared is 36. Now in this case, we lucked out that once we did that, the x was already by itself and we no longer had to solve anything. However, sometimes there's still more to do, so the next step would be to finish solving for the variable. From here, the big thing that you want to do with radical equations is check your answers in the original equation. So here, my original equation that I'm going to use is 7 plus radical x equals 13. I'm going to take the 36 we just got, plug it in for x. From there, the check needs to be very simple. You're just going to take any side that has stuff that has to get done. If you see any addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, those sides you're going to go straight into plugging into your calculator. You are no longer solving at this point, so you should no longer be doing anything that requires you to move things to another side. All you're going to do is check, does the left side in fact equal the right side? So I'm going to plug into my calculator 7 plus radical is second x squared 36. Hit enter. It tells me 13, so that is now my left side. I had 13 on the right side. They are in fact equal, so my final answer is in fact going to be the 36. So we're going to try the same thing on number 2 now. So there are my steps up at the top. The question says radical 2y minus 1 plus 7 equals 4. So step 1, isolate the radical. So this plus 7 is hanging out outside of the radical. So in order to isolate, I'm going to subtract it over. So I get radical 2y minus 1 equals negative 3 now. Step 2 says square both sides. I want to square the left side so that the radical and squared cancel out. And the entire inside of that radical is just left on its own, 2y minus 1. But if I'm going to square the left side of an equation, I need to square the right. Make sure that you do put that negative 3 in parentheses to square it, because a negative 3 squared implies negative 3 times negative 3, which should get me positive 9. Now, unlike the last one, I do have step 3 here to do. I have to finish solving for my variable, which is y. So I'm going to add the 1 to both sides, then divide by 2. and I get y equals 5. From there, step 4, which is very important to do, is to check your answer in the original equation before anything had been moved, what was initially given to me. So I'm going to plug in that 5 for y. Once again, all I am doing here is plugging this straight into my calculator. I am not going to actually do any calculations myself. I'm just going to type in radical second x squared 2 times 5 minus 1. Now make sure that either you end the parenthesis if you're using an older calculator, or hit the right arrow key to get out of the radical before you hit +7. And the calculator gives me a 10 for the left side. Meanwhile, my right side said 4. 10 is not, in fact, equal to 4. So we take our answer and we reject it. And since nothing was left over, this one has no solution to it. So it's very, very important that we always do a check. The answers that cancel out, we call them extraneous solutions. So you always want to make sure you check for them to see if anything's going to cancel at the end.